So this is the OnePlus 15R, and it's the more affordable version of the OnePlus 15. And today we're going to do a speed test comparison to see, by the end of this video, how does it stack up against one of the more powerful phones on the market in the iPhone 17 Pro Max. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology in OnePlus 15R versus 17 Pro Max. Let's go ahead and begin with a boot up test in 3, 2, and go, and see which one can get there first. Now, the OnePlus 15R is giving you the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 5. It's a higher end chip over the 8 Elite that was on previous phones of last year, and it's actually pretty a boss chip for the price of the OnePlus 15R, which undercuts the 15 by a couple $100. So it turns on faster than a way costlier iPhone 17 Pro Max. People always say though, who cares about a boot up? I care. You want to know why I care? I care because on certain occasions, I even have a video on my second channel, you need to reboot your phone. Certain times of the year, you might get a little crash or just the phone's acting weird. You need to reboot it. And I wanted to do it pretty quick because throughout the day, I don't got time to be waiting on a phone to take forever to turn on. So anytime a phone's a little faster to turn on, that's why I do those tests right there. I just want to see which one does a little bit better there. So let's go ahead and get into the next thing. So when it comes to unlock speed with the 15R, you are unlocking with the fingerprint sensor right there. Now this fingerprint sensor, is the best way to unlock this phone. You don't really want to use the face because the face is not quite as secure as what you'll find on a, iPhone, for example. It's not a sensor based, it's just a camera based. Now, of course, it's not super easy to fool those anymore, even if it's a camera based, but it's just not the preferred method. And you're not going to be able to use it in certain like authentication based applications like banking apps. But generally, I do think they kind of like fly in the same way. They have like the same animation when they go into the phone. But I can kind of get into the OnePlus faster because I literally don't even need to look at it. I can go like that and I'm in. So faster speed on the OnePlus 15R. So let's go over to settings. We'll scroll down to the about device section. You could see we're rocking with the 8 Gen 5 right there, 7400 milliamp silicon carbon battery, massive battery in here. We also do have 12 gigs of RAM plus a 12 gigabyte of RAM expansion. You can also see we have RAM optimizations down there, and they have a Trinity engine, a gaming architecture, and a tri-chip setup. So OnePlus really is working on smooth, great experience for even their R version of the phone. You'll see 165 hertz on the high refresh. So it is capable of that in games, but in regular use, it's running at about 120. And even will kick down a little bit lower if it doesn't need to be in any high refresh mode. Now for the iPhone, you are looking at the Apple A19 Pro chip, 26.3 on here. It does have a pretty high clock speed, but so does the OnePlus over here. The OnePlus is clocked in at the highest version of its chip at 3.8 gigahertz. So we'll see if that higher clock speed on the iPhone does matter, but it's also rocking 12 gigs of RAM. Let's get into the app test now. All right, so we're going to close out everything here, make sure everything is closed out, and we're going to go ahead and begin with Calendar. Now, I am using Google Calendar versus Apple Calendar because those are the stock ones they come with, and Apple Calendar seem to open first. Let's go into clock here, and that was a little faster on the OnePlus. When we do go through different sections, we will find ourselves launching at about the same. One thing I notice about Oxygen over here is that while it does have it was faster on the left, it does have kind of like the same kind of feel as iOS. So if you're into a phone that feels smooth with the animations, you might really like Oxygen OS if you want an Android phone. And let's go ahead and go into weather here, and you'll see, I think, again, the animation a little faster on the left. Let's go ahead and swipe out of there. We'll go into ChatGPT. That launched first on the left. We'll swipe up out of there. We'll go into Gemini, and you would think maybe, I'm gonna pay more, I'm gonna get way more power, but you'd be wrong with the OnePlus 15R. It's a great value, the power you get. The con of it is that the camera doesn't hit the levels of some of the higher end flagships, but it's still better than what you would think you would get from like a lower mid-range phone. So not bad, but that is the issue, I would say, overall. You can probably get a better camera than the OnePlus 15R at the price you're going to pay. Now, for some reason, Groupon is taking its sweet time for Valentine's Day here. It's loading up a coupon or whatever, but that app's acting a little weird. So let's go on to Subway Surfers, and we'll see what happens here. Game modes do appear for both of them. I'm going to give that one to the iPhone. So the iPhone pulls ahead there for Subway Surfers. And here we go with the OnePlus 15R. That was a little bit of a long launch for the OnePlus 15R. I don't know what that was. Okay, guys, so let's go into Dead Trigger 2 right here and see what happens here. The OnePlus and the iPhone loaded about the same. Let's go ahead and launch into the game. And you'll see OnePlus is in, and then comes the iPhone 17 Pro Max. So even in some games, even if they're casual, the OnePlus is potentially faster. Also, it does have a smoother refresh when it does tick into the 165 hertz, which is not going to happen in every game. That game would have to support that high refresh rate, but that high refresh rate will make the experience feel a little bit nicer for the OnePlus 15R. Now you can see here in Free Fire, the OP gaming core does launch up when you go into a game. Sometimes the gaming mode does appear as well on the iPhone, but the iPhone appears to be loading this first. And we're in the Free Fire first for the OnePlus, or for the iPhone 17 Pro Max. I was actually looking at where the load time was. That's why I said OnePlus. But yeah, 15 Pro Max for Free Fire. Let's go into Call of Duty. And you'll see Call of Duty is pulling ahead here right now on the 15R, but the iPhone is catching up here. But sometimes this will launch in after, even though it looked like it was loading slower at the very beginning. So looks like OnePlus still in the lead here right now. And yeah, OnePlus is going to take this one over the iPhone 17 Pro Max. Looks like, yeah, there we go. And Call of Duty is actually one of those games that you can get into the higher refreshes with. So that's a pretty good thing. I also found that OnePlus phones, and when I'm actually doing games, they tend to have a little bit nicer, graphics, like the way that games look, than some other Android phones. It's probably because they focus a lot on that area as well. So if you do like to game, but you also don't want a fully dedicated gaming phone, I do think the 15R or the 15, even the OnePlus 13 of last year, these are great options for that particular user. They want a regular phone, but they also want to do some gaming on the side, but they don't want it to look like a gaming phone. You can see right here going into Destiny Rising, the iPhone pulls ahead, and some other Android phones don't look as great in Destiny Rising I found as the iPhone, but the OnePlus 15R does. So it looks just about as great. Let's go into Asphalt. We'll see what happens here. iPhone pulling ahead, not by a whole lot, but definitely pulling ahead. So far, I'm pretty impressed with the performance of it literally feels like you're getting $1,000 plus flagship on the OnePlus, even though that is not their top tier version, which would be the OnePlus 15. But you can still play the games very well. Let's go into 3D Mark. You also get a really large battery as well, which is actually longer lasting than this one also, with their 7400 silicon carbon. Let's go into Google News. Actually, I think this one is bigger than the one on the base 15, OnePlus 15. Let's go over here to technology. And once you're in there, scrolling the same, it's still that slower scroll versus that faster scroll on Android. We know about that. Let's go into Geekbench 6, faster on the right, and we'll go into InShot here, faster on the left, and SpeedTestNet, faster on the right. So to me, they traded quite a few apps. It's pretty close here. I couldn't even tell. I think that OnePlus has a little bit better animations across the board. They're a little bit faster. The iPhone, when you go back through the apps, you're going to see it actually has faster animations there. But in the app test, the iPhone pulled ahead in a few games. The OnePlus pretty much beat in a lot of areas, but then some of the apps open first. It's almost a draw here between these two and just daily application use, which is saying a lot for a significantly cheaper OnePlus 15R. Let's take a look at the RAM management now. All right, now one of the areas I noticed with the OnePlus is it tends to kind of not keep all the apps open. Now I have tried, I do some preliminary tests before I make this video, and I actually went through all of these apps and turned off the battery optimization settings, and it still tends to close them out. I don't know why it does this. It has 16 gigs of RAM or 12 gigs of RAM, so I'm not sure why it's doing this. I even put it in the high performance mode, so that's not it either. It still does this. So I just kind of left them like that. But I went through each app and turned off battery optimization so it would not kill the app in the background, and it still tends to close some of them. So you see a lot of these apps are just, they're kind of reloading, if you will. And to me, I don't know if I love that. It's good for battery life, but at the same time, if you're trying to keep everything open, OnePlus will shut down a few in the back just to save you battery life. So that's a little bit aggressive on that side. Let's see how the iPhone does. Now the iPhone tends to save a screenshot, so it appears to always be open. at all times, even if it's not technically open and I just skipped one. So we're just not going to redo Free Fire. But you'll see reconnecting to Destiny Rising RTS, you'll see at least it looks open. See how it paused right there? It's not technically Subway Surfers with the reload. We'll go into Groupon. That's going into that area. And you'll see Gemini was kind of ready. ChatGPT reappearing. That was ready. Not too much different from the OnePlus 15R, I have to say, but that screenshot does at least kind of make it feel like it's still open. See how it like takes a second? Like it's like they pause it in iOS and then you kind of like, it kind of appears like it has been open. The one that truly I think keeps them open really well is the Ultra Samsung phones. But these two, they tend to, they're pretty close. They're both 12 gigs of RAM and RAM management. And the final Geekbench 6 scores are in, and you can see that the OnePlus with a pretty respectable multi-core score, but getting beat by the iPhone pretty healthily on the single core. So the iPhone wins in the Geekbench 6 test. Not surprised, the iPhone tends to always win in that specific test. So what we're going to do is run a Wildlife Extreme to see how the graphics compare when they go pretty hard in this area. So let's go ahead and do that, and I will be back to see what the frame rate differences are between like a OnePlus 15R versus a iPhone 17 Pro Max. Keep in mind, the OnePlus 15R is significantly less. It's almost like you could buy two of those. Not quite, but you can nearly buy two of those for the price of one 17 Pro Max. We'll be back when they're done with the graphic test. On our file, Wildlife Extreme scores are in, and you could see the OnePlus actually loses here as well with 4523, 27 frames per second, better than 87 or 85% of devices on the market, with the iPhone 17 Pro Max coming in a little bit better there with better than 93% of devices on the market. Now, both of these phones are pretty toasty. I want to check their temperature before they cool down. The OnePlus 15R, we've been pushing it, hitting around that 106 degrees. Over here on the iPhone, you can see that thermal efficiency is the real deal. Over here, hitting nearly 101, but that's several degrees cooler. So Apple has crushed it with the thermal efficiency of the iPhone 17 Pro Max while still giving you performance that can beat a lot of Android phones, as you can see right here. But the deal is again, we have to keep in mind the price of the OnePlus 15R, and probably it might get better score if I just did this video from the very beginning, started with this test, but I'm not giving any cop out. The iPhone 17 Pro Max has won that test. Let's go ahead and do one final thing before we get up out of here, and that is launch the cameras. I do want to see, and I got this little OnePlus Christmas ornament, so we'll go ahead and launch the camera here on these two and see what happens here. So it's going to be a little tough because these phones are very large. I want to drop them. 3, 2, and go. And you've seen that was faster for the iPhone, and we'll do it again in 3, 2, go. And that time the OnePlus. Now, when you actually take the photos, they both look pretty good, especially with good lighting. OnePlus does some pretty good processing with their current modern phones, so the images do appear better than what the reviews might say. With the iPhone, you also get really great images and awesome video and social media camera if you like to put things on social media. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up here for me. The OnePlus 15R didn't seem to be enough to take down the 17 Pro Max, but it was a respectable performer, and it nearly feels like the same performance as a top flagship. So this is an excellent value pick here in the OnePlus 15R. Let me know if you agree or not down below in the comments. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you all in the very next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.